University of Lleida is an institution with an intense human activity. Every day a large number of people use its spaces and it has the obligation to ensure their safety and well-being. As a result, it has an obligation to continually improve its working conditions and facilities and to make appropriate plans for dealing with potential emergencies. All of the University of Lleida's buildings have their own safety plan, which includes the action that must be taken in the case of an emergency. The people responsible for carrying out these plans are specially trained members of staff who must follow carefully established protocols. They are coordinated as follows. At the top we have the head of emergencies. He or she is responsible for managing and coordinating emergency situations and is the person responsible for dealing with an emergency until the arrival of external help. The control centre is responsible for centralising and coordinating operations, raising the alarm and making requests for external help. Its coordinator must be in constant contact with the head of emergencies and must carry out any instructions received. The primary intervention team is responsible for confirming any emergency situation and for taking initial action to combat it using fire extinguishers. The secondary intervention team joins the primary intervention team, helping it to fight fires using hoses and fire extinguishers. It is also responsible for cutting off power supplies to the building. The alarm and evacuation team is responsible for evacuating the building and guiding all of its occupants along safe routes to the assembly point. If it is not possible to completely evacuate the building, this team must guide its occupants to safe areas. The University of Lleida is responsible for the safety of the university community, but it requires the collaboration of all concerned to ensure a rapid and efficient response from the emergency teams. For this reason, it is necessary for everyone to know how to react in the case of emergency situations such as a fire. The first thing to do is raise the alarm. It is possible to raise the alarm automatically via the fire detectors connected to the central switchboard that send an automatic message to the control centre. It can be a text or a voice message depending on the system installed in the building. The alarm can also be raised personally by dialling *112 or by phoning 973 70 2222. It is also possible to raise the alarm by pressing one of the fire alarm buttons that can be found on every floor. When the control centre receives notification of an emergency, it calls a member of the primary intervention team to obtain confirmation of the alarm. The person in charge with confirming the warning must then go to the concierge in order to switch off the alarm and inform the control centre of the floor or area affected according to the switchboard.
Ascolta, el problema está a la primera planta.
Escolteu, hi ha un foc molt gran. Hauríem de demanar ajudes externes i hem d'evacuar l'edifici.
Molt bé, ara avisem els bombers.
Once the primary intervention team has been notified, it starts to put out the fire using only the fire extinguishers that are on the premises. These are kept in places that are easily accessible and visible and where there are no obstacles to hinder their use. Intervention teams must never act alone. It is therefore essential to send reinforcements to the area affected. When the emergency has been confirmed, the control centre locates the head of emergencies and he or she reports to the concierge of the building.
Atenció! A la Universitat de Lleida. Carrer Jaume Serra, número 71.
Once external help has been requested, the control centre contacts the other teams and goes to the building affected, taking a mobile phone and the master keys of the building affected. At the same time, the secondary intervention team blocks the lifts in order to prevent anyone being trapped in them. It then cuts off any other supplies that could help the fire to spread, including electricity, air conditioning and technical and city gas supplies, before helping to put out the fire using the fire hoses. When the building's electricity supply is cut off, the reserve power supply is activated, which does not supply components that are not required to fight the fire. The secondary intervention team can now use the fire hoses without any risk of electrocution. This is when it is necessary to provide members of the intervention teams with individual protective equipment.
Aigua, aigua!
While the secondary intervention team tries to extinguish the fire using the fire hoses, the alarm and evacuation team is responsible for ensuring a complete and orderly evacuation, leading people to the assembly point and informing the head of emergencies. If the number of people in the building is known, it is necessary to carry out a head count. The basic guidelines for an evacuation are: keep calm at all times, making sure that you do not run or scream so that you do not cause panic amongst the people accompanying you. Do not use the lifts and follow the instructions given by the emergency teams. The alarm and evacuation team must also ensure that no one remains in the building, and it must close doors and windows in order to slow the spread of the fire.
L'alarma que està sonant és que hi ha un foc a la primera planta. Si us plau, sortim amb ordre per la sortida d'emergència. Comenceu sortint vosaltres, no agafeu les vostres coses. Aneu sortint, si us plau. Continueu vosaltres de forma ordenada, no correu.
It is important that the teaching staff evacuate their classrooms and make sure that people leave via the emergency exits. The head of emergencies meets the external help, providing as much information as possible about the emergency. Once the firefighters have put out the fire and the emergency situation is over, supplies are re-established and everything returns to normal as quickly as possible. It will then be necessary to investigate the causes of the fire and take appropriate corrective measures, collect and restore any firefighting equipment that was used, and analyse the performance of the emergency teams in order to review and, if necessary, revise the emergency plan. It is important to take advantage of any emergency situation in order to learn from it and improve our performance and procedure.